Nice.
Mark.
You ready?
I'm ready for you anytime.
Okay, good.
Explain where you've been and how come and why.
Why it's been so long? Okay. You want me to come up there or stay there?
Come on up. Right up front.
Okay. Okay. I'm Mark Scuderi. I've been running the Soapbox Derby in Rochester. This is our 25th year since we brought it back.
Okay.
And I was talking to the Monroe County Highway, what's the word I'm looking for?
Department of Transportation.
Department of Transportation. And the last meeting, I meet with them every May before we have the race on Lakeshore Boulevard.
Right.
And one of them, they said, you know what, 25 years ago, they told us that we were going to have to block the road for the Soapbox Derby. And we said, man, this is only going to last a year. So that was 25, almost 25 years ago now. So we have gotten to the point where I'm getting old. And it's hard for me to be taking 100 cars from wherever we have them stored out to a location where we're racing, Lakeshore Boulevard, as, for the local races. And then we have to set that track up. If it rains, it's a huge problem. And the problem we have now is storage. We have 120 cars for kids to use. And right now I'm working with kids in the city at the 5 worst performing elementary schools. I go in every day from 3:30 to 5:15, and 5 different schools once a week. Okay, so all 5 days a week I'm working with kids. So 20 at each school. So I'm working with 100 kids now in a STEM program. And what I do is I teach them how to build the cars. But while we're building the cars, I teach them all of the science, technology, engineering, math that goes into them. Okay? And this is 2nd grade all the way to 6th grade I'm working with. Once a year I take 24 of those kids to Akron, Ohio in May for the national championships. They race other kids who are in similar school STEM programs from around the country. In the last 3 years I've had a second, a first, and a second with the kids from Rochester in the city. These are kids that have never been out of the neighborhood. We take them to Ohio, they race on a national competitive basis, and we're winning. Those kids are winning. They're coming back and they're different kids. Even taking them through a whole school year, okay? They might be wild, crazy, you know, it's tough to work with them sometimes, but the next year when I go back into that school, it's totally different. You know, it's like, Mr. Mark, Mr. Mark. It's like, you know, they're hugging and they just, they love the program. They get so much out of it. And when I get these little girls look up to me and say, I want to be an engineer someday. That's the best feeling. You can't imagine it. And one of the things I say to them is don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't be an engineer. And I'm so proud of you for even wanting to do something like that. So this Soapbox Derby is not about cars racing down a hill. It's about building self-confidence in children. It's about building them up and giving them an opportunity to see that their future can be a lot better than, you know, what they're looking at now. All right, so a few years ago, probably more than that, we came here with an idea of building a track at North Ponds Park, in between the 2 ponds. We were going to have a 2-story building up at the top, storage on the bottom, elevator that will bring the cars up to where the ramps are on the 2nd floor, and coming down toward the expressway. I thought that was just a fantastic place to put it because 100,000 cars a day would see it. And I know if I pass something like that, I'd want my kid to be on that thing. And by the way, I'm a Webster resident. I live on Nature Trail Circle. Nature Trail Circle. Yeah, right behind the country store on Lake Road. We have a path that some trees fell back in those woods.
Is there sawdust along with it now?
Things happen to trees. Trees and cats, things happen to them.
It's very windy out there.
It's windy. Anyway, we can walk. I can actually get my golf cart through there now. So anyway, Webster resident now. We talked about North Ponds Park, and at the time, he said, yeah, let's go for it. So I got Costich engineers. They surveyed the whole thing. Barkstrom and LaCroix, they did the architecture for the building. We had everything ready to go. And then I was told that we would be too noisy out there. And the answer to that is, we're next to an expressway. When you're standing out there, you can't talk to the person next to you unless you're yelling. So I can't see how we would have added a lot of noise to that. But I've said for years that Ron is the best supervisor in Monroe County. Have I always said that?
Thank you.
Have I always said that though?
Yes, you have.
All right. All right. He keeps the taxes low. He's done a great job. I have all the respect in the world for him. So he came up with an idea. He says, how about you put it out on Phillips Road near the rec center? Okay? So we looked at that. There's no hill. In fact, it goes the wrong way. All right. But as it turns out, Jeff Richardson, who's a friend of this Jeff, okay? Jeff is the district manager for waste management. He said, we can make a hill, okay? Caterpillar, Waste Management is Caterpillar's biggest customer in the world. He can get Caterpillar to come in with equipment along with Volvo, and they can build a hill. Now that's what they did in Sanford, Florida, because everything's flat down there. They pushed the dirt from the bottom of the hill up to the top. So it starts above grade, ends below grade. It's a beautiful, beautiful hill to have. I have pictures of it if anybody's interested. I knew that was going to happen. In fact, this is Ned Green. He was going to come here. That I'm presenting right now. The police department building. Yeah, you got to come down to the other building. In fact, somebody's going to come out to the door. There's another building at the just north of there. All right, thanks. Bye. All right, so Waste Management is willing to build a hill for us. I still have Costage. They said that they did the survey for us for free. If they don't want to do it again, Labella said they would like to do it for us. We have the Pluta family from Pluta Cancer Center. Their kids went through the program. They were in the program for 8 or 9 years with all 3 of their kids.
I know Roddy very well.
What's that?
I know Roddy very well.
You know Ron? Yeah, okay. So Catherine came in 3rd in the world one year.
Yeah,
I think it was 2005. 3rd in the world.
they're growing up now, aren't they?
Oh, yes, they are. Catherine works at Breathe, right there in the plaza, right there, on the other side of the building. So he's willing to have a fundraiser for us at Oak Hill. I've talked to Danny Wegman, who's been our major sponsor for now. This is our 25th year they've been our sponsor. I asked him if he would like to come to the fundraiser. He said if he's in town, he'll be there. They're going to support us. They always have. This is Ned Green. He's the owner of Wider Hardware on Monroe Avenue and down in Honeywell Falls. He's on our board of directors. Ned has a pretty good friend, John Harris, who's an attorney his main business is working with foundations and recommending to foundations where they put money. So we think that this project might be as much as $1 million between the track and the building. And we believe we can raise the money to do that, not ask you for anything. In fact, the track and the building would belong to the town of Webster. We would just lease it from them once we got it built. And some reasons why we might want it in Webster. First of all, there's not that many permanent soapbox derby tracks in the country. Sanford, Florida, I mentioned, has one. Culpeper, Virginia. Jamestown, New York, of all places, has one. Salem, Oregon. Of course, Akron, Ohio is where the World Championships are held. There's a couple of them down in Kentucky and various, but there aren't that many. When you have one, it becomes the regional center, and you have kids coming from all over to race there. So in our case, we would have kids coming from all over New York State, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Ohio, would all be coming into our races, or the rally races, which we hold about 6 weekends a year.
I was going to ask you, how time frame? All summer?
No,
Spring?
no, spring and fall
Spring and fall.
is when we would have the rallies. The local is in always like the first week in June, and then we prepare for the World Championships in July, so the 3rd weekend in July. And as soon as we get back from that, Then we start the next season, which would be August, and then we'd have 3 races in that time frame, 3 in the spring. But this is a great complement to the Miracle Field, because there's what's called the Super Kids program. I have cars that are double cars, where we sit a child in the front, and we can sit an adult, or another child who's a good driver in the back, and we take them down the hill. We take one of those kids, or 2 of those kids, to Akron each year, along with the rest of our winners, to race at the World Championships. And in 2018, Rochester, we won the World Championships for the Super Kids. Little kid Dylan Swanson, he's about that tall, okay? Going down the hill with another driver, but he wins the World Championship.
Partner with Challenger there, Mark?
Sure.
You like that?
I do.
By the way, I still have all the paperwork you gave me about 11 years ago, whatever it was.
Whereabouts,
If you were looking for it.
whereabouts, would the hill be located on your campus?
Well, we were talking about, right on Chiota, or on, yeah, Chiota, right across from the, Xerox parking lot. There's that
Want to do the
field there.
Yeah.
Where the amphitheater was gonna go?
Yeah.
I'm
guessing that's the only place it could go.
That's looking up the hill, there's other views, if you want to pass those along. That would be looking up the hill. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
It looks like it, but it's not.
No, we're not doing
So the track would go along the creek, and then the building we would be over where those pesky trees are. Another finger stroke.
So we need here.
Yes, the track would be right along there, and our building would be over there. Yeah, it's right across the street. I mean, you see the road right there, and right next to it is parking.
That was a big thing, for me, that was the big thing at North Pines, you didn't have parking.
Well, we didn't have parking in North Pond, it would have been neighbor.
For the number of people that are gonna be coming to this. You're gonna need to use that parking lot and the parking lot over here.
Up to about,
uh,
up to 1,000 feet, but it has to be a minimum of 600, so we can, it'd be somewhere between 600 and 1,000.
concession or something. Bring them in.
Well, when we have the big race, the local race for all the local kids, 120 kids, Wegmans supplies box lunches for everybody, so we don't sell them, we just give them one. If somebody wants to come in there with a food truck,
Focus is on kids and family and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the rest of that stuff, not so much.
I understand.
But, I mean, we just got Miracle. If we got a soapbox derby permanent track installed here too, and we're talking Webster is sports town. Well, I know we are, but more people will hear about it.
Yes.
This adds another piece.
It's another piece to it, yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's top board, we've been working towards Challenger with Mark.
What happens to your Lakeshore Boulevard thing?
I'll answer that, hold on.
Problem with Glacial is great, but there's a lot of soft time, so we're putting way too much energy into set up and tear down.
I'm sure the county would be glad for you to not do that anymore.
Yeah, there's some smaller ones. This would be looking up. Lakeshore Boulevard, actually, this is the 25th anniversary of us coming back. It's also the 25th anniversary of Quad A for Kids. It's a 501c3 in the city. They're the ones who actually have these after-school programs for the kids. 5 years ago, they called me and asked if I would be willing to help them get a soapbox derby program started with them.
Where did they race before 25 years ago? Because I had a classmate that won it. Probably in 1960-ish.
60 is Lakeshore Boulevard.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I raced there 68, 69, and 70.
The Spooners.
Oh, yeah.
The name were the Spooners.
I remember the Spooners.
And we have another kid here with the Dozens kids.
He won the world championship
In 2 different
twice.
classes,
Right,
right?
in 2 different classes.
Those are Webster kids.
Yeah, I know, I took them out there.
So what do we gotta do? We've always been on board, Mark, you know.
I just had to come and get the okay again to start getting it surveyed and start the ball rolling. Dolomite, okay, I talked to them about asphalt and stone and everything. They said, I'm gonna need about probably $167,000 worth of stone and asphalt. They give it to me for $63,000. Knock up over $100,000 off.
Why don't you go out there and get it surveyed, and go to a Bell or Costas, and come back with a design,
Okay?
okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody is on board. Yeah, so we can see it, okay?
How big a building do you want there?
Well, you said you have 120 cars.
Well, I also want to run races inside that building throughout the winter. But and not just racing, but to be able to bring the kids out there and have them test their cars. We build, I got a big ramp, I need 200 feet. So the building I'm thinking of is 200 by 100.
So our indoor rail is kind of like if we are in downtown, places like that.
Yeah.
Instead of going, setting up and tearing down, it'd be a permanent.
If you held it at the Armory downtown, I know exactly how much distance.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We've done it at the Dome Arena, we've done it.
Dome Arena, yeah, we've done it at Chase Market stores. Chase Market stores.
So with the storage piece, you gonna be able to sort of store them all in there too, the 120 cars or whatever you have?
Yeah, they're like 6 feet long, 34 inches wide, so there'll be, on one wall, there's gonna be shelves. Yeah, and they'll stack them. We'll get them all in there. But then on race day, we bring them out, put them on the floor, and the pits are in the building. So if it's raining or something, it's not a problem, we don't get our cars all wet. And now we can expand the program. Like I was talking about, I didn't finish it with the super kids. So right now, when we have our race on Lakeshore Boulevard, they come in at lunchtime and they race for 45 minutes while we're all having lunch, okay? And then we take our winners out to Ohio. We can have weekends where, you know, we call up these organizations, bring all your kids out on the bus. We're gonna have these kids racing all weekend, okay? Just for super kids. I mean, that's just a really neat thing. And now we have the potential of getting something from the Galvesano Foundation at that point. But, you know, we're serious about those kids, and we win the world championship with one, and it shows it. And by the way, since we did bring this back to Rochester, we've won the world championship 13 times. So Ricky was 2 of them, okay? And little Dylan was our last one, but we've had 10 other ones besides them.
We're never gonna sell it, so you're gonna go for a lease agreement or
Yes.
something like that?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe the South Jersey.
All right.
Similar to what we have for American Rail.
Yeah. So here's our uses. It's our local races for the local kids, 120. We'll have the rally races, kids coming in from all over, using our hotels, restaurants, whatever.
Yeah.
We can actually have summer camps, a week at a time. Drop your kid off at 7:30 in the morning, pick them up at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, they're going to be learning about the science, technology, engineering, and math, and going into making these cars fast. They'll be racing during the week, building cars. I would expect a lot of them, their parents would end up buying cars so that they can be in the regular races and start participating in the sport. We can do our banquets and our awards in that building. Again, the super kids can race. As far as the town is concerned, if you guys want to use that building for anything, you have, for whatever programs you have, it's going to be there available. And also, we might even be able to do snow tubing in the winter. Let the residents come out and do snow tubing. Nothing with metal rails, but, yeah.
Because the escape ring is right on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be great for the town.
What's the total height off?
I need a 30-foot drop.
You have side rails on the track,
Absolutely.
so they can't carry them off.
Yep. And they're down right against the ground, they're not up in the air. So they're regular guardrails, but they sit right on the ground.
I'm just wondering how tubing would work on something like that.
Fine. I think it's fine. You got it, because you're gonna have about what's a guardrail, like 14 inches, something like that. All right, so you've got that sitting there, the tube goes and bounces off it, and it just keeps going.
And even if we needed to put something in there for the season,
It's always safety.
So I'm really glad to be able to recognize this.
Well, if you can have a bigger building, so that would be better. That would be more of an architectural, like, wow, that's really cool. And whatnot. But this is would be a lot more functional.
Absolutely.
And plus, it's at the right size.
What's the age range of the participants?
7 to 21. 7 to 20. once they hit 21, they're out.
There's an ultimate division for the college kids, so once you hit 17, they age into slightly different set of rules, but they can engage companies to help support and sponsor. It really brings in that engineering component.
So what about with the non-typical kids? What about the adult age? Because a lot of those, they're 5 years old or 10 years old, whatever it is, and they, now they're 20 or 30. Could we still do? It doesn't have to be a specific race. I mean,
They can't go to Akron.
No, could
Right.
we still run some programming for that? age
Yeah.
group?
Yeah, because I work with CP Rochester on Kings Highway. All right, there's 10 residents that live in that house. They come out to the race each year. This isn't you this time, right? Okay. How about that? I could just.
I have no problem.
It's like when we're talking.
She's got the golf cart stuck in the woods.
That one tree just hasn't fallen yet for some reason.
I told you to put a winch in it.
She wedged it in there.
Yeah.
Now, this is a win-win.
Yeah.
How long did it take to build it? Do you have got that?
I've never built anything like this, but I'm gonna do the best I can. You know, we have so much support. 25 years, I've had so many kids come through this program from all different resources, okay? Kids who have absolutely nothing to, you've heard some of the people that have been in the program. All right, district manager, police management, Plutus, others. Okay, so,
Okay, direction here, go get your survey.
okay,
Not a problem. And then have whoever draw up what you think of the building, what
Yep.
you want, and
Yep.
everything, and bring it back to us.
okay.
I'll
I'll visit with them, go to Costage tomorrow first, give them the opportunity, because they've already done all that work. And,
see Mark wants to do, he probably knows.
right.
Did he work that? He didn't do the work.
No, he did, new basket.
He did that.
Oh, and I've heard that the bolters were always too.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've got two 54-foot semis sitting out at his location, because we didn't have a place to put all our cars from the barn we had, and it was getting torn down. So Wegmans came through and gave us the Chase Pickens store next to Lisa's Liquor Barn. So we've got that area, that's where everything is right now. Until they lease it, and then it's either gonna go back into, it's gonna go into those trailers, which means I can't even run the program out of those trailers, okay? But that's why I've gotta get this, I've gotta get something done now before that happens,
Got time for it? Do you know how long?
this summer.
This summer?
That's what I would like to do.
Well, I'm what?
Talking about putting a full bar building.
Yeah, but it's gonna have to be a little better than that because of the size of it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But we'll make it match like the rec center has that more room, little.
And, you probably have to make it appear himself, and that's what some of our kind of
Something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we have. Quick, see.
Tended to be the Ron Nesbitt, filibuster.
I don't think you want to do that.
I guarantee he'd be the first one to want to go down the track.
Oh, you're all gonna wanna go down there.
I love the snow tubing part of it too.
Yeah.
You can drive the sheriff's cars on the track.
My grandkids love the skate park over there, or the ice skate.
That's nice. By the way, that sheriff's car you just talked about, we took that down to Avon, or whatever it was, Star Headlight, and they put all the, it looks like a county sheriff's car, and they put all of the flush lights on it, red and blue. No sirens, that was me with the bull.
Sounds exciting.
Okay. Let's get it done.
All right, hey,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, this is gonna be, man, if this happens, man, it's just gonna be fantastic.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right.
Send a picture of Mr. Business running down Lakeshore Boulevard.
Oh, you know Steve Weezer too? Is that the Weezer?
No.
Oh, Steve Weezer? How do you guys know Steve? Oh. I appreciate it.
Nothing but a election is
We're gonna be playing golf with Ryder this week,
All right?
next week, yeah.
Hey, nice, nice. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate everything.
Probably not now. Maybe right once in a while, that's it. What? Little presentation.
Just to where we're at, we're trying to put it down in the next one, so
Somebody else.
Okay, we have Gerald Perriman here tonight, Numberberg Solar Farm. He's making a presentation about a solar project.
Yeah, solar project is community as well. Solar is typically from the water.
Yeah, we got.
You do?
Yeah.
Look at that, man. You guys are way ahead of typical towns. So the essence, I guess, of us coming here, myself coming here, first and foremost, really just a preliminary type of conversation in regard to not only the solar farm, but the sort of the community as a whole. And really, these projects themselves, especially on the solar side of it, take a lot of due diligence, engineering, a lot of work with the utility, a lot of work with municipalities. So we like to come and whatever town or village or county that we're building in, we like to kind of come in and just explain what it is that we're doing and sort of get the blessing to some level of the town in order to push forward. So just sort of an over-sprawling look at what it is that we're proposing. So this location here, and I don't know if you have the printout of the email as well, is it's on Salt Road, just north of I think it's from 104, is that right? 231 Salt Road, just north of the Webster Golf Course, is the parcel that we're looking at. It's about roughly 60 acres. The majority of that is or would be dedicated toward the solar field itself. What you're looking at as far as the homes or the little white parcels that are right here are what really we're defining as custom home design build custom homes that Norbert Renovations would actually design and build themselves. All of the contracting, the solar farm and those kind of things, we develop that and then contract that out. So with this concept of the community and sort of a all-electric, fully sustainable community is essentially what we're proposing, where we're saying these homes themselves under this design build, this custom design build, being all-electric, the individuals that would actually purchase the homes, they would be fully powered by our solar farms, not only this one, but other ones that we have in different areas of RG&E and NYSEG and different places like that, along with some battery storage integration, which if you're not overly familiar with solar and storage and how all of that works, effectively the batteries themselves will be charged by the solar system and then allowing electricity for the homes overnight or during snowstorms and different things like that. So again, what we're looking at is this idea of, I think Dave calls it ranches on farms, a fully sustainable community. This is something that is done in some parts of the country, not super popular in New York State as of right now. But I'm sure that to some level at least you're familiar with Governor Cuomo's extremely aggressive sustainability goals for New York State. We see this as a footprint toward the future, and that's sort of a cliche kind of saying, but we really do. And we're going to be actively looking at NYSERDA funding to kind of expand this footprint across New York State. We do have another project in Parma, New York, a solar farm that went up and running, I want to say about 2 months ago. Rochester Regional Health is the main off-taker for that electricity. So what I'm getting at is that we've built solar farms in Monroe County before and gotten the backing of the communities and of the town, of the municipality. It's actually the second largest in New York State. We're looking to do something very similar on that parcel of land as well. And we're kind of going through a similar progression that we're going through right now with the town of Webster. So kind of getting back to some of just the high-level bullet points that I'm assuming will be asked as far as questions. Project cost, probably to the tune of about 17 to 20 million for the project in its entirety. That's solar, storage, and the housing itself. a big factor that comes up a lot of times with solar farms is the visibility from the neighborhood. People don't want to see it. I love solar. I put it in my backyard, but I realize that a lot of people don't. What we're looking at here is in a similar way to our Parma project is full shielding, and we do that in the most natural way possible. And you can see both on your diagram and up here. I mean, we're fully shielded really from the surrounding neighborhoods, just with the forestry itself. The exposure on Salt Road would be covered by the homes. In addition, this long sort of lighter green triangle represents a natural berm that we would install. Right around probably 10 foot, we'd have to get into the engineering, 10 foot in height. We'd have to get really more in depth into the engineering of the solar field itself to make sure that at street level, you weren't actually going to be able to see the modules from the road or the folks across the street in their second story home. If they do catch a glimpse, it'll just be the very top of the modules. So that's a big one that comes up a lot is the visibility. We're very, very conscious of that and very sensitive to the aesthetics of it all. And really try to place our farms as far back as we can. Kind of talked about the existing project. With all of this comes, have you guys had anybody come to with pilot agreements, payment in lieu of taxes in regard to 47? Okay.
Well, in regard to, no, to this regard to these kinds of homes.
For solar, more specifically.
I don't think we have, Jeff, have we?
There's no homes on this property, my friend.
No.
Right now it's vacant land.
There's two houses here and
Well, it's farming.
Correct.
It's right across from Fieldcrest.
This is the land
No,
you
that's
rezoned, you rezoned this land
This is
a
Salt
year
Road.
ago.
Fieldcrest is on
Phillips Road.
Yeah, I've got it's 231 Salt Road, and obviously it's
It's actually pretty far north.
Yeah, it's just south of Lake Road.
it really is. Yes, exactly. Right in between Woodward, just north of Woodward.
If I understand, you did not at this time have a contract with, you did not have a contract with the owners.
We do not. We have a bid in for the property itself. Dave is really kind of the guy that knows and deals higher level on that end of it. He's in a much warmer place than all of us right now, unfortunately for me.
This is the new
But no, we have contingencies, and there's no reason why we feel as if we couldn't acquire this property. But again, with the amount of due diligence that needs to be done, we give ourselves, a 90-day, 120-day leeway. No, not at all.
He's
Not at
trying
all.
to
Just
figure out
wanted to
where
make
this
sure
is.
there's questions.
You know what Briarwood subdivision is? Briarwood? Across the street.
So kind of circling back to the pilot agreements, and I'll sort of wrap all this up and open it up for questions and that kind of thing. One of the biggest barriers that we come up against is the pilot agreements, and that's the payment in lieu of taxes on the 487 code. And the 487 code essentially dictates that you had each town, school district, any municipality had the ability to say, hey, we don't want sustainability or renewable energy built in our town. And everyone was opted in unless they decided to opt out. The town of Webster, as I understand it right now, is in, meaning there is permitting processes in place that would allow us to install solar. The County of Monroe, we've already built, so we've signed pilot agreements with them. The Webster School District, however, is out as it sits right now. Now, we've run into that more often than not, and typically it's a matter of folks just not understanding, right? Not understanding what sort of benefit could come to them in terms of those taxes, that tax revenue, and really just kind of opting out and then waiting for somebody to sort of come to the table. We've been able to get over that hurdle with the support of the community, the support of the municipalities, and especially once they see the level of revenue that does come from the pilot agreement, and we really do try to sort of put the lion's share into the school district itself. We can typically sort of turn that table and really show that benefit, along with allowing for field trips, and we'll actually go and show the solar system to the kids, explain how it works, and do all that kind of good stuff, and really kind of walk them through it. So I got long-winded there for a minute. Is there any questions or comments before I? Yeah, please.
The houses you were describing, Did you say they would be all totally electric houses?
They would be totally electric. We would bury propane tanks, just in case of any sort of emergency that would be necessary to be able to allow for, you know, critical loads and things like that could be fueled by the propane. But we already really have kind of a safeguard with the battery storage.
Have you built any of these houses before?
These homes?
Yes.
Yes, Norbit Renovations has absolutely built, let me retract that. They built homes, absolutely. All electric homes that are connected to a solar system, no, we have not.
Did you say you were building one in Parma?
We have built a large solar field in Parma, and we're sort of identifying the same sort of concept for that same parcel of land with homes and walking trails and compost and all that.
It hasn't gone to the home piece.
It is not, no, it is not. And typically we see the homes, people are comfortable for the most part with home building. It's solar where we hit a larger snag. And that's where, again, we like to kind of come to these meetings and say, hey, this is our intention, but it'll cost, you know, upwards of $3 to $4 million just in preliminary engineering, understanding, you know, whether or not we can even send that amount of power back to the grid, doing different CSER studies, interconnection work, working with the utility, having our surveys done. It costs a lot of money. So again, the sort of the blessing from the local municipality in which we're actually building in is pivotal for us because, you know, we'll just have to find another parcel of land and go somewhere else if that were the case. Which again is
usually the community response to neighborhoods, in neighborhood, or of course to proximity of solar farms.
Sure.
Do they like it? Do they not like it? Is it a visual thing? Go ahead.
9 times out of 10, it's visual. That people just, they don't want to see it, and that's the biggest uproar that we get from community members. And that's why we take such care and consideration into making sure that it's all screened and not by, you know, not by a wooden fence or a concrete wall, but by natural vegetation that will plant and will shield, and again, building the berm itself. And typically, you know, what we'll do as well is, you know, when there's a larger town meeting, should we get to that point, people see solar and I'm surprised that it's not a full house. Typically it is when solar is on any docket. What we're always willing to do and open to do is to say, hey, any folks that are within the community, we're happy to allocate part of this solar system to community solar for the shared public of that community itself. So if somebody wanted to say, hey, I want green energy, or yes, I want to pay less for my electricity bill, all that kind of stuff, we'd be more than happy to allocate a part of that farm to the community itself, right? To the folks that if they want to come in on a community solar program.
How do these solar farms do in areas that are heavily affected by snow?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, they get snow on them. There's no line about that. However, the way that these projects are financed is that there's of course your financier that wants to make sure that solar farm is pumping out as much production as possible, all hours of the day, regardless of the weather. So we'll actually come in during heavy snowfalls on an O&M contract, an operations and maintenance contract that we'll find somebody to fulfill for us. They'll come in and actually clear off the snow if necessary. And really, like any other electrical component, it works better in the cold. It works better when it's colder and sunny. Really, New York State is I don't want to say optimal for solar, but it's highly underestimated. And when the panels are clear and there's snow on the ground, we actually find more production because we get a lot of that light that bounces off the snow and reflects off the snow and then back into the modules themselves.
This is a very snowy area. in
Absolutely.
Webster. It's the area of Webster that gets the most lake
Sure,
snow.
sure. And we have a project that we're developing in the final stages of approvals in Watertown, just on that very eastern part of the lake, which is, I've driven up there maybe 10 times since we started, and it's like you hit that one turn around the corridor and it's just a shield of snow every single time. So we're very conscious of the fact that there is snow and that it will cover the modules. It's still a financeable project, right? The folks who care the most about what that produces are the ones that are putting the money up. folks that are actually receiving that electricity, they're paying for what is produced. They're not paying for what we think it will produce. They pay for what that solar system will produce, and everything else, the grid then backs that up when necessary.
At what point, Jared, do we, to the left here is a housing tract, at what point in time do they have to have input on this?
Sure.
And I think, to me, maybe they're supporting, their input is paramount to this whole thing. Because nothing to the right, there's nothing over there.
What is over here to the west? There's some buildings of some sort in the woods.
Oh, that's just woods. Oh, yeah, there's a house, these are large lots.
What's next to it?
Basket.
Right.
Basket. You can see there, it says.
These things right here, I don't know if they're homes, because I don't know how you get to them.
How many years have you been doing this thing?
I've been in solar for a decade or so. Actually, I'm from Buffalo, New York originally, and I was in, I just moved back from California for the past 5 years in North Carolina for about 5 years before that.
So, to Supervisor Nesbitt's point, he makes a very valid point.
Sure.
Obviously, the residents that live in that area, their input's going to be paramount.
Totally agree.
So at what point, before you spend a lot of money, okay, do I get them in here and say, hey, look, this is what you're presenting? You know, my opinion really doesn't matter if they're totally against it, okay?
Absolutely agree.
Really, okay? So at what point do we get them in here without you doing a lot and asking their opinion on how they feel about buffering, or instead of you going so far, and then we get to the planning board stage, which is, way down the road, you got a whole bunch of money involved in it. I got people in the room saying, geez, I don't want that. Why don't we just cut that off the pass and find out right off the beginning what they want?
And that would come at the time of exploring a pilot agreement, is really when that would come in. I think that's more of unless you guys do it a little bit different, that's more of the sort of the public sector and the more formal town board meeting itself. We're happy to invest the amount of money that would be needed for higher level design than what you're seeing up here, a CESAR study with the utility. And a CESAR study is essentially just understanding, hey, can we take this amount of power and put it back to the grid itself? We'll invest that, and that's just a cost of doing business for us. At that time of the pilot agreement and really presenting that to the town, having the discussion with the school district and sort of kind of swaying them to opt back into the 407. We're not bashful about it at all. We want the support of the community. So we would bring it to an open discussion at that point. And then if it got voted down, our loss on whatever we have invested. But at this point, we would feel comfortable moving forward with our preliminary studies with the blessing of the town board to say, hey, we're interested, go ahead and move forward and bring back, some more tangible information. And from there, let the bullets fly from the community.
Go back to your pilot again. Down in Webster, we're going to do pilots with what you call host agreement. Okay? Host agreement is you pay 100% what the taxes are on this property. The reason for that is because we have a budget. And if everybody's going to be part of the community, everybody has to pay their first share of taxes.
Sure.
We have a police department, it's expensive, and so a pilot gives you a period of time that you get a decrease in your taxes over a 10-year period. I know the county likes it, that's the county, but the town doesn't like it so much, okay? The town likes to, whatever, at the point of C of O, you would be taxed at 100%.
Okay.
Town tax.
Town tax,
Sure.
only town. Now, when you look at it, I don't know if you have it now, the town tax in the town of Webster is only $5.16. And most of the people don't have a problem with paying town taxes.
Sure.
It's when you get up to the $25 to school, that's when people get into the problems. But those students are going to school here. Follow me?
Absolutely. Well, maybe a few that are living in the homes themselves.
Right, okay. I got you. But I wanted to just tell you on the pilot program, if you went to Comida, which you probably would do, we would insist on a host agreement, which means that you would pay full tax.
Which,
Down.
oh, and I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Which we're not opposed to, and that's, we're very, very flexible within how it is that the deal needs to be structured or would want to be structured. I can say that we've had that conversation before about host agreements, running them through our attorneys, which is, of course, they're our attorneys. They find them to be less beneficial to the municipality than to us in the level of its enforceability. Now, I'm not an attorney, right? Don't pretend to be by any stretch.
You gotta go through.
I can see that looking at me that he's the attorney. Our pilots, and I'm not dismissing what you just said, are for 15 years, and they're based on a megawatt threshold. So NYSERDA actually puts together and says, hey, you'll have a minimum amount of money that you'll pay per megawatt that you're actually producing. And the town of Webster may benefit in a better way with a pilot agreement monetarily.
Well, we can look at that. I mean, I just want to give you my side.
And I appreciate it, yeah. And we're with the town of Lyme in Chameau County, they want a host agreement as well. And we're saying, okay, we're more than happy to put something like that together, as long as you're able to sign off on a pilot that would say, hey, we're not gonna pay you anything, and all of that money then goes to either the school district or the county or the village. The funds have to be allocated at some level, right? I didn't catch that.
You're good.
You will be paying us.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I wouldn't try not to. We want to pay you, we really do. We want the project to work.
My thing here, I think the board is too, is we want to know what those residents.
Okay.
We want to know what they think.
Okay.
Okay, because it's right across the street from them. I don't have any problem with electric homes, if some people want to buy electric homes, and that's the way it is, that's fine. There's a lot of solar panels. I don't know how Webster feels or the public feels. I'm at loss to make that decision for them, okay? I really am, without hearing from them. I wouldn't even attempt it. Wouldn't attempt it. Without having a public information meeting and calling them in and you making a presentation.
Okay.
Answering your questions and see where it goes. Am I right on that? Yes. Okay, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your, these solar panels, I have a couple questions about panels themselves. So life expectancy of these, 10 years?
Solar panels are actually warranted for 25.
25?
Yep, and they'll last for 40 years, 50 years.
Okay.
There is a degradation in power production, absolutely, but the warranty on a module itself is 20 to 25 years.
What happens to these when they just don't work anymore?
When they don't work anymore, we'll replace them, but you're saying at the end, like 30, 40 years down the road, we will have a decommissioning plan put in place, and we come in and we strip them down and recycle them. Essentially
They are recyclable?
about 96% can be recycled and then actually refabricated into new solar modules. Silicon, copper,
At the
silver.
end of the term, you're gonna come back and you're gonna put new ones in, is that what you're saying?
Well, we certainly can, absolutely.
What typically have you done in the past with respect to these solar farms?
We haven't had a terrible, I mean, they last 25 years, we haven't had to get to that point. And it's really that the infrastructure is the biggest cost when we're looking at installing something like this. Actual modules and labor and different things like that, I mean, maybe 15% of the cost, where the actual ground mounted system, putting the posts into the ground and all of that steel and that kind of thing, that's really where the expense comes from. We'll repurpose it if solar's obsolete in 30 years, 40 years, I don't think that it will be. But if there's something newer, better, greater, then we tear it all down and we bring the land back to its original state. We are the,
So you pull the posts out of the ground, that's part of the.
we would cut them down, I want to say 5 or 4 foot, I think is the number, 4 foot underground, and then we dig down, cut it from 4 feet underneath the ground, and then resoil it over. Which is a pretty standard decommissioning plan as far as bringing everything back to its natural. It's like a fence post for a fence. Instead of just trying to dig it all out, cut it down, again, about 4 feet below the frost line. And I've been away from New York long enough to forget where the frost line is. Yeah, it is 4 feet.
How far down do those posts go?
Depends on the soil testing that we would do, but we've got a project in Tioga right now that we pounded some posts. I think that we came back to 6 feet, I think is how deep we need to go. It's a pretty sandy soil that we've got there. And again, based on the soils report, we may find that we need to ballast the system and just, we're really kind of more surface level, and it's concrete blocks that would go on top of the ground, and we would just counterweight or ballast that system.
On your posts in Tioga, they, you have cement down the bases up? Drill holes?
We do not actually. It's a large I-beam that we pound the post. We don't drill or screw them in. We
So it's
pound
an
the post
I-beam,
in.
it's not.
Depending on the soils, we would love to use a C channel because it's more cost effective, but it wouldn't work for us just because it was so clay ridden that as we were trying to pound the post, the C channel was getting so clogged up with the clay and the muck that it was bending the post itself. So that's when we took the I-beam, and it adds an additional cost, but it still makes sense for us.
Are you building one shower?
We are not building one
Is
ship.
that what you're talking about, is that Martin?
Correct. Yeah, correct. We're pretty far in terms of the conversations with the county appears to be very much on board, so is the town. The school district is hemming and hawing a little bit, just in full visibility. But we're getting over that hurdle. And part of their hurdles were pilot agreements as well, and wanting some host agreements, which again, we're flexible.
Okay, Jared, I have a piece of property, a wastewater treatment plant sitting on the floor.
226.
226.
226,
226, what's your way?
Phillips
Right
Road, you said?
226 Village Road. Right next door,
Directly west of this.
Okay.
right next door to that is vacant land. It's been vacant land for a long, long time because it sits next to the sewer treatment plant. It's not advantageous for housing, right?
I'm with you, I'm listening.
So if we were to, that property, and I've done the research, is a lot less money than this piece, considering,
Okay.
okay? If you, because I know you haven't met what they want, and that's a lot of money. I'm not gonna throw those numbers out there, I know what those numbers are. Okay?
For
this
the
piece.
plot of land, yeah, I leave that to Dave.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's out there. The other pieces have to get as much, okay?
Mhm.
Could you go over to Phillips Road, or even do this project, I'm not saying you can't, and get us solar power to power the waste treatment plant?
It's a strong possibility. I mean, so from this array, say you build this array,
Well, I'm not saying, they can stand alone or they can go together. I'm just thinking outside the box,
Sure.
that's all. Because I know that piece of property, I've tried to buy it for the town, can't buy it for the town. It's just not functional next to the sewer treatment plant.
okay.
Okay, but I'm thinking that you could buy it. Or maybe in a combination, I get a ball field down there and I'm the park and trust and we could use it. Okay?
I like that. Do you know the acreage off the top of your head?
I'm thinking it's close to 60, I forgot.
60 is a good
I would
number
say
for us.
about 50 acres.
It's about 50, someplace in there.
That's a good number for us. And the thing that comes to my mind just right off the bat is whether or not there's a transmission line, or I'm sorry, a distribution line, by that property. I can look at all of that though. It's not
Okay,
I
I'm not eliminating this, but the other one would be a plus too. It's a
If
plus
I
plus.
can build two,
If I can do a
build
solar
spot.
thing to power the wastewater treatment plant.
If we were to build something that size and thinking again outside of the box, outside of just the treatment plant, would the town of Webster be open to procuring some of that electricity for your municipal buildings? Library, the town hall, your police? Yeah, oh, you're definitely,
Yeah.
that's the whole,
That's the whole idea.
we'd be out of business, yeah.
Right?
We'd be out of business, absolutely.
Right? So, you on board?
You buy off the grid to reduce cost.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, the way that, you're spot on, exactly, it's an energy credit, it's a monetary credit. New York State does it very different than anywhere else in the country. There's actually a lot of eyes on New York State setting the tone for what solar is gonna look like in the future, and that's where we see, these parcels as well. I agree with you though, the community members are huge in their buy-in and their understanding
knocking
and
on my door.
their approval. They're knocking on your door? I'll get your home address from them. So I will look into that parcel and get back to you and just let you know from a sniff check.
That parcel's half again as much as this piece.
Who owns it, if you can?
Private owner.
Okay.
The husband has recently passed away, and the widower has got it on the market.
Okay.
But the
There's been
problem,
a for sale sign up there for 20 years.
yeah,
Is that right?
it's next to sewer treatment plant, come on.
So yes, nobody's
Okay,
gonna build.
it's a perfect place for a solar array. And to you and I.
What is this really?
It's a sewer.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did you have the ice on that?
No.
Hold on, it is right there.
Literally,
Yeah.
it's just, it's not.
What is south of that? Just expand out.
Another big field.
Oh, okay.
It's not-
So we'd have
Somebody likes to
less,
live next to each other.
no, of course not. We'd have a little less pushback probably on the community there, huh? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I understand.
Back one time they wanted too much.
Yeah, they're done. Done.
Somebody,
Because that's what,
somebody had to make up and
Yeah.
figure it out.
yes.
The, kind of circling back to the community members,
Yeah.
you mentioned and I'm gonna botch the name of the type of meeting that you called, that you said. I mean, I recognize it's
Oh,
like a special
informational
purpose
meeting.
meeting or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we call them informational meetings for the public.
Okay.
Public informational meeting.
Okay,
What we would do is, a month out or something, we would let them know what this was, and we had them last night here
okay,
for a project we're doing on the sandbar. People came, made a presentation, walked around for different boards, got to talk to your people would be here,
great.
got to talk to your people, pros and cons. Last night there was not a question and answer, but you could have that if you wanted that. And that way there, you're gonna get a feel for what the public wants.
Yeah.
Okay, the town board here doesn't like to just do things and ram it down somebody's, I wanna be educated, and I think the people wanna be educated on what this is. Because I don't know.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
All right,
So what is the process in setting something like that up? I
you
mean,
just let me know, and we can
Okay.
do it a month out or something, and we can coordinate our schedules when it's probably.
When you're ready for it, let them know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably gonna be a Monday or Wednesday night. This place is used on Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
So it'll be a Monday or Wednesday. Give us some time, let us know what you're gonna do. And then we'll do a direct mailing to these people, and then we'll put it on Facebook and everything else.
Oh, fantastic.
People that wanna come. People not here to this area, I don't know if there's a lot of interest,
I'm sure there'll be an opinion too.
There's a lot of opinion on solar right now.
There
okay?
certainly is, yeah,
There's
you're
a
not
lot
wrong
of
about
opinion
that.
on solar
Yeah.
right now, so, a lot of misinformation on solar,
No doubt about that.
a lot of misinformation on solar.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt about that.
And carbon tax too.
It's coming,
Uh-huh.
it's coming. We carbon taxes, it's coming.
I don't do, carbon's okay, but the tax is bad.
You might kind of, yeah. Great, well, I mean, for me, that's, it sounds at least, we get the community members on board, at least conceptually, the board itself is open to this idea and open to this concept.
Yeah, if we can do a special mailing, right, those residents. Okay. Just let me know.
Sure.
Get back to me or Dave.
Yeah, I will.
Dave, whatever.
I'm gonna
He's
reach
got
out.
my email, he's got my phone number.
I'll give you a call. I'm gonna try to let him enjoy his
Right.
vacation. He's out of the country for a little bit. But I'll circle back with him and just kind of see if that's something that he wants to be in attendance for. And if not, then we can expedite it at a month and see what else we have there.
And then let me, and look at the 226 Phillips, I would be curious as to what your thoughts are.
That's where our sewage treatment plant is.
Right.
The piece of property he's talking about is just to the north on the east side.
To the north on the east side. So you were showing me that. Okay. Certainly will.
I appreciate it,
No, I appreciate all of your time, for sure. Great. Any last
Okay.
questions, thoughts, concerns?
Everybody?
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sir, can I zoom in on
That
that?
does it for us.
Can I zoom in on that?
Of course, yeah.
Can you turn it for me, please?
Can you get it?
Yeah.